When I talk about animal rights folks being white supremacists, when I talk about the veganism to alt-right pipeline, you have to understand that all of that is absolutely going to tie into and harness eugenics. There is no alt-right, there is no fascist movement that is not coupled with eugenics. It's actually quite shocking how many people on the political left are really prone to eugenicist thinking. I know Imani Crutches and Spice talks about this a lot. Lots of y'all don't realize how suffused a lot of your beliefs are with eugenics. I know a lot of people who are animal rights activists, who are vegan activists, think that they are on the political left. They think that they're like real fucking woke. And then you get to the core of it, you get them talking about what they believe, and the eugenics is just like so overt. The eugenics is just like, it's right barely underneath the surface, and let them talk for a second and it bubbles over. Do not confine animals, period. Close every zoo, aquarium, etc. Empty the cages. Secure thousands of square miles where humans never go, ever. 10 million people as a global population. This person goes on to talk about population control. That's fucking eugenics. What's your plan to get from 8 billion people to 10 million? What's your plan? What's your plan that's not fucking eugenics? Jesus Christ. I know I've talked about how the population bomb, the overpopulation myth, is a eugenicist myth. Antinatalism is eugenics. Childism is eugenics. I used to call myself an environmentalist. I'm loath to do that anymore because there is such a strong bent for eugenics in environmentalism. Also, again, your white supremacy is really fucking showing atoms and sky. Secure thousands of square miles where humans never go. This is a great chance. Maybe I'll do a whole series on how conservationism is also white supremacy, is also eugenics. All of these things we think of as being noble and good and politically on the left makes us really uncomfortable. People get really dysregulated when you talk about the fact that they're often steeped in white supremacy. They are alt-right pipelines. The left is not immune to racism. The left is not immune to eugenics. The left is not immune to ableism. The left is not immune to childism. Give these folks 2 seconds and they'll show you their whole ass. I know we have a long history of eugenics in this country. There's a long history of eugenics in Europe as well. Just because you're on the political left does not mean that you have unpacked that, deconstructed from it, and let it go. Far too many causes and ideologies that people associate with the political left are still absolutely chock fucking full of eugenics and white supremacy. No, babe, it absolutely is white supremacy for you to tell indigenous people what kinds of food they can and cannot consume. It's not simply about caring for animals. It's your choice to moralize food in a certain way and then to put your beliefs about food on other people, to superimpose your choices, your restrictions onto other people, to tell people they cannot eat their traditional foods, they cannot practice their traditional culture is white supremacy. Alt-right views come from a place of hatred. When you choose to restrict food, when you choose to limit what kinds of food other people can eat, when you place moral judgment and call some foods evil, some foods good, some foods clean, and some foods dirty, that will 100% of the time become an alt-right pipeline. That will 100% of the time become something that fascists, that white supremacists exploit. Restricting, controlling people's food, what they put in their bodies, moralizing food is always an alt-right pipeline. I know that's really uncomfortable for a lot of vegans in particular to hear. I know you thought that your ideology was aligned with the political left. You thought that it was good and pure and not contaminated by people on the right, but there's an awful lot of vegan influencers on the right for a reason. Hitler was a strict vegetarian for a reason. Any kind of food beliefs ideology that promotes ED is also going to promote white supremacy because it's all about hyper control. It's all about controlling other people's bodies. It's all about controlling their thoughts. We do that most easily through food. We superimpose our culture and we erase other people's culture very easily by controlling the kinds of foods that we think they can and should have access to. I know, there's so many things about wellness culture, about good, clean eating and being that we don't want to see as being alt-right pipelines. We want to believe that they are good and virtuous. Guess what? People on alt-right pipelines, people on the far right, they also think that they're good and virtuous. They also think that they have right beliefs. I know so many of us on the political left don't like to think about how many of our beliefs are functionally an alt-right pipeline, especially when it comes to food, wellness, and environmentalism. People got really mad at me today on YouTube for saying that there is a veganism to alt-right pipeline. It's the same way I say there's a crunchy mom culture to alt-right pipeline. There's an environmentalism to alt-right pipeline. There's a yoga to alt-right pipeline. There's a wellness culture to alt-right pipeline. It's called MAHA. Anything orienting around virtue, goodness, cleanliness, moral purity, especially when it comes to food, what we put in our bodies, how we treat our bodies, the way our bodies look. If we assign value and virtue to any of that, it's automatically going to become an alt-right pipeline. Whether or not you are someone who happens to be sucked down that pipeline, if you are participating in an ideology or a subculture that can be harnessed for the alt-right, it's good to be aware of that. It's good to be aware of how you are vulnerable. Everybody is vulnerable once you step into these spaces. You can think that you're not, but you are. There's a gym bro to alt-right pipeline, a child-free to alt-right pipeline. If we are on the political left and we have any of these beliefs, if we are in any way connected to any of these subcultures, we don't like to hear about how they can and are harnessed and used by folks on the right. We want to believe that these are all our spheres and that they're not contaminated by people on the alt-right, and definitely not that they can facilitate people being funneled to the alt-right. Yep, that makes us really uncomfortable. Earlier today in my comments, somebody said, oh, there's a homeschooling to alt-right pipeline. And I was like, oh yeah, I think they thought because we're unschoolers that I was going to be like, no, that's not true. Of course it's true. Of course it's true. First of all, a lot of homeschoolers start out on the far right, but even in the unschooling community, which is overwhelmingly kind of like secular, leftist, progressive, there is definitely an alt-right pipeline within this group. There are definitely beliefs that operate in this sphere that our family lives in that can funnel people to the alt-right, and we have to be aware of that and not believe that our ideology, our belief, our subculture is so morally pure that it couldn't possibly be contaminated by the alt-right, and it couldn't possibly be used to facilitate the radicalization of other people. Too many of my friends went down the crunchy mom to alt-right pipeline. Too many of my friends went down the unschooler to alt-right pipeline. I have lost friends down the veganism to alt-right pipeline. I've lost friends, way too many friends, down the wellness culture to alt-right pipeline. These things are real and they exist. Just because it makes you uncomfortable doesn't mean that it's not happening. And it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to sit in your discomfort and to unpack all of this, because realizing that these vulnerabilities exist and then addressing them is a good thing. And also, if I have one more vegan in my comments being like, it's not white supremacy to tell Indigenous people what they can and can't eat, it's totally fine for me to be like, your traditional cultural practices and your traditional foods are evil and immoral. Like, fuck off. Of course, that's white supremacy. I know you think that you are not racist. Guess what? There's a lot of racism in leftist spaces. You're not immune. If you are telling Indigenous people, if you are moralizing the food choices of people from other cultures, if you are trying to superimpose your ideology, your beliefs, your moral judgment about food onto other people, that's fucking white supremacy, babe. That's white supremacy. And you would do well to examine how your ideology is radicalizing you, is normalizing white supremacy, is normalizing alt-right beliefs for you.